Scott, you and I are grabbing the Google Stadia to check out a Western.
Hey. Hey.
Scott, you and I jumped into a spaghetti Western with El Hijo. This is a unique twist on the world of Western games and the fact that we're playing a stealth game. This is a son and mother adventure. The two have been separated, and the son is out to return back to his mother and trying to find him over 29 levels throughout the game. And it's an old school feel of stealth. The overall story, though, is portrayed through cutscenes and no voice dialogue whatsoever. You're just there to kind of portray and get your own feel of what is essentially this find your mother kind of game. And it's, I don't know, man, honestly, it's a little different for me. I had a bit of a struggle trying to really dive deep into the game. I found things just seemed really repetitive. When I said old school stealth, it's where the characters, the enemy AI, sit there on screen and they literally like pivot from one angle to the next, and you can see the cone with the help of the vision through your bird. And it just has this sense of when you go into the darkness, well, it's a hard edge darkness. So it's like you're either in the shadows or you're not in the shadows. There's no blend of the two, right? Well, you and I are big stealth fans. We're often talking about Splinter Cell, and there's just a different aspect to that game versus obviously where we're at with this one. But it's got this unique art style, a simplistic art style, and simplistic gameplay. What did you think about this one, Scott?
This is a very interesting take on stealth, and I want to say it's classic stealth elements. But this game plays very much trial and error as you kind of stumble your way through these darkened levels, avoiding the monastery and these priests that are inhabiting it.
Yeah.
As you progress from one kind of area to the next. It gets more and more complicated, and the pathing through the levels get more intricate. You have to eventually start moving ladders around, moving these set pieces to clear yourself a path, and it gets a little more complicated pretty early on. This it presents as a very simple idea. You're just a child and you have to stay in the darkness and avoid these characters. But what starts off simple easily gets complicated, and the difficulty spikes kind of early on, I found. There's a couple different devices that you get that can distract enemies and open up a path for you to walk through.
Sure.
There's these stones that you can throw, and that will, send a priest to go investigate what happened, and that gives you just a second to slip by. But it's very quick kind of moments like that, where you're just moving from one chunk of shadow into the next.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The levels are just, it's all in one perspective when you're playing the game too, so you're not able to pivot the camera around for a better or more advantage of an angle. Yeah, it's just all locked. The camera's locked, and you're there to just maneuver the bandits or whoever's on screen in a different manner to get out of the way, so it'll allow you to slip by. And sometimes that slip by is like seconds, and then you've made it. It is a bit of a rewarding feel when you go past one of the objects that you've been struggling with, right? Because often their vision cone will come up and they'll just turn around and they'll get you instantly. But it is, like you say, Scott, trial and error as you progress through these levels. I did experience some levels. You go into a darker scene and it is like super, super dark. That is really hard to see overall what you're supposed to do. So I kind of wish there would have been just drop little hints of light around the area, so we have some kind of, not necessarily guidance, but visually be able to see where my character was. Because the minute it went so dark, I couldn't even see where the little boy was at times to maneuver him through the level, or even where to go on the level, because it was all just almost one muted color.
Yeah, and it was a little bit disappointing to me that there was really only one kind of action, that is stealthing and avoiding characters. There wasn't really much to do as a consolation. If you are spotted or busted by one of these priests and monastery bandit type people, you have to just run away and hope that you can get to a shadow fast enough, but it really isn't a very good option. And I know that's probably an artistic choice in the hands of the developers. They wanted to craft this stealth kind of feeling. Sure. But it would have been nice if there was just a little bit more of a kind of quick and dirty kind of way of handling some of the events, because like you say, it is dark, or the area and the path you have to take is very complicated, and it's very tempting to just try and sprint through certain sections, but that generally just does not work out in this case.
Overall, Scott, the game is pretty lighthearted, I feel, right? And the art direction kind of emphasizes on that as well. The art style is kind of gave me this paper cutting feel when you know, paper mache kind of thing, where you'd cut out, and a little bit of tearaway-esque feel from the PlayStation days. It's simple, but then when you look for the audio to balance that, the atmospheric audio sounds are super, super light, kind of just vacant in a sense altogether. And it just left me wanting more. I felt a little empty playing the game.
Yeah, I do like the kind of variations that you come across throughout the different levels, but it would have definitely been a huge solid to have some sort of soundtrack backing that and emphasizing certain moments. I feel like there wasn't that emphasis when things do get intense. It's mostly just up for you to interpret when the intensity is really spiking.
I think overall, our spaghetti western time is over, Scott. For me, the game it's almost there, but it's not quite enough. I love stealth games, but this just wasn't enough to keep wanting me to push through the game further and further. It just kind of dragged on a little bit. And I was hoping for a little bit more, well, any dialogue, kind of sense of direction with the overall story. Yeah, you're there to go find your mother, and you know, you actually have moments where you play as her, which I thought were really nice, but it just wasn't enough for me. And for me, I'm there with the 6.
I have to agree with a lot of what you said there. There's a lot of aspects in this game, and I do enjoy stealth games in general, that I'm interested in the story and seeing how that develops, and I like the different set pieces and the environments that you go through, so I'm definitely interested, but there is just something lacking that pulls a player in, and it's not to say that the game is really, you know, suffering for that. It's just maybe my personal take, but I have to agree. I think it's about a 6 out of 10 for me as well. A Wild West Tale is an isometric stealth adventure with a unique art style. Unfortunately for us, we found it a bit slow-paced with less action than we would have preferred.